Hello, everybody. My name is Northern Gamer 207 or Nox if you haven't seen my channel before. So yesterday, the 4th of July was very eventful for me. It's not one I'm going to forget, and I don't think my boyfriend is going to forget it either.
Right.
So the day started off well enough, It's a normal day, but then later that day, I started to feel unwell. We'd gone for a walk. I have pre-diabetes or diabetes. We're not really sure which yet. I've been seeing my doctor about it, but they know basically that I have onset diabetes. And I was sweating so much. I could feel my heart racing on the walk back. And here I am, because I tend to get low blood sugars back around May, I think it was. Was it May?
May 10th.
Yeah, May 10th, I had a seizure, a petit mal seizure due to low blood sugar, and my blood sugar was like 60. So here I am thinking it must be low again, right? So, I could feel the symptoms. I didn't really want to worry my boyfriend, so I didn't say too much about what I was feeling, but he could tell I was sweaty and not feeling good. And I said, let's stop, let's get a drink. We'll get a water. Maybe that'll help me feel better. So we stopped at Subway. We did all that. The Subway lady was amazing.
Yes,
she's autistic like we are.
Yes, she mentioned that. Yeah.
So that was cool. I had my dog, so she offered me a little bowl of water for my dogs, which was so sweet. And I didn't even finish my drink. Like, I had this much Coca-Cola. It was very, very little. And then I drank a bottle of water. Not a bottle, like a cup of water, which would have kind of brought down my sugar level, and walking should have brought it down as well, which is why I thought it was low. So, we finished the walk home, and we get inside, and my hands are a little shaky, and I know something's not right, but I was sure I could make it home safely. My boyfriend kept asking if I could make it home safely. I'm like, yeah, I could get there. So we got there, and I go to test my sugar, and my hand's shaking, and I had to get him to steady my hand just so I could poke, which is scary for me because, I live alone, and what if he hadn't have been there? And it was like almost 400. And usually, if mine is like 200, I drink some water and it brings it down after a while. The problem with having pre-diabetes or diabetes is my body's no longer regulating my sugar level, so it's all over the place. It's high, it's low, So I've kind of had episodes where I've kind of learned somewhat what to do. And I've had a seizure before, and my mom has kind of told me what she's done. And my brother and things like that. So I know what people do and I took CPR. I know what people are supposed to do. And I had explained that to my boyfriend, having had one in May, what he should do. Because I have a brain injury. I said the first thing you do is protect my head. Because I have a brain injury. Put a blanket under my head. Like, take care of my head first. And whatnot. And then I remember I woke up in the ambulance, and we were like almost to the hospital. They said my arm was gonna hurt because they stabbed me with Ativan to stop the seizure. And then I had a little Band-Aid here where I think they messed up the IV because I was shaking so bad. And then I had an IV here. We went into the hospital, and I was terrified because my mom wasn't there. She usually follows them up and sits in the room with me. What I didn't know is my mom had followed them up and dropped Kyle off, but she had an appointment tomorrow for her cancer in Boston. So she went home and she called my brother so he could go there and give me a ride home when it was time for me to be discharged. And the doctor came in and he did tell me that it was because my blood sugar was too high and I had a seizure. And he said it was either petit mal seizure or a generalized seizure, which is also known as like a tonic-clonic seizure. Which one it is, it's most likely the petit mal is what they had basically explained to me. But he said he was going to run some testing, so he took my blood, he took my urine, and basically before I left said that they would giving me fluids. They gave me, in the ambulance, because my blood pressure was dropping, they gave me salt water. When I got to the hospital, they gave me fluids as well. and they dropped my blood sugar to about 100. So the doctor came in. He basically explained it's a seizure. Your blood sugar's too high. And to make sure I actually ate when I got home, because he didn't want me to come back for low blood sugar. He's like, we dropped it to like 100, but this was like, they tested my blood sugar probably like an hour and a half before. So he was like, it's probably even lower now. You should eat before, when you get home or before you get home, because we don't want you back for low blood sugar. And he said, if you ever have any seizure symptoms, come back. It's not the first one I've had, and so my mom's a pro in those situations. Like, she knows what to do. And I am unconscious. I am unaware of what's going on around me during those seizures. I do not feel pain. I don't hear you. Nothing is nothingness. That's the only way I know how to explain it, is it's nothingness. I'm not in pain. I think it's scarier for those around me. So I thought I'd give you my perspective from somebody who's had a seizure and has some health problems. And my boyfriend wanted to give his perspective. Northern Boyfriend 207, take the stage, steal the show.
I'll try. Right, so everything... She's relayed pretty much everything to you. I'll start from where she had the seizure. I had grabbed her... We had phoned her mom right before she had it. She said she would be on her way, and she was.
I always phone my mom when my blood sugar is really not good, and I'm really not feeling good.
Yep. It was right after we had tested it. We sent her the exact number. It was either 365 or 375. It was high, either way.
Yeah, it was almost 400.
Right. I went to grab her a water from the fridge, and before I even got back to the table, she had fallen out of the chair and began seizing. First thing I did was grab a blanket, put it under her head. She mentioned that earlier. And turned her to her side, which is what you're supposed to do with seizure patients. And
that is so you don't choke on your spit that's coming out, like I foam at the mouth. And so I tend to vomit during my seizures, and I know this because when I had my seizure back in May, I vomited on the poor paramedic, on his gloves. He had to get brand new gloves, and when I came out of it, he told me I vomited on him. So I vomited on like the poor paramedic, and so that you do that so that your airway hopefully remains clear, and if anything comes up, it's just gonna go out of your mouth easier. Yes. And so you don't like bang your head when your head is shaking.
Right. So right after that, I phoned 911. I've never had to do that before, so that was rather daunting. But mind you, I also suffer from autism just as she does, and a good amount of anxiety is in me as well. So I had a headache during this whole thing, but adrenaline basically just took over once I saw her go down. And I was on the phone with them for about 10 minutes or so until they arrived. Her mom actually arrived first.
My mom probably sped the whole way because she lives 15 minutes away and the ambulance is 5 minutes away.
Yes, she was here within about 10 minutes or so.
Yeah.
Was when I got off the phone with them. And what else is there? It's very scary to witness something like that, somebody you care about especially, you know.
For me, he and my mom were my hero, and I didn't... It's hard to expect anyone to know what to do and handle an emergency like that. So when I was in the hospital and my brother got the visitor pass and came in and saw me, you know, before I saw the doctor, and then he went out and he sent Kyle in, and I got to see him.
Yes.
And I was very grateful. Like, he was my hero. He and my mother, you know, were both my hero. For doing what they needed to do to get me to the hospital safely.
Yeah. So, I was going to say something else. I was trying to remember what it was.
You were mentioning your anxiety.
Yes. Her family took very good care of me. Her mom, her brother, her sister-in-law, so to speak, for lack of a better term. They got me situated. That was the easy part of, I guess, just feeding me or whatever, just to get my anxiety down while this was all happening to her. I was worried about her, obviously.
And I'm sure my family told them I'd pull through. I mean, when I had my brain injury in 2018, my body temperature was below 12 degrees, and I was seizing, and my breathing stopped. I had respiratory failure. My heart stopped, and there was no oxygen or blood going to my brain. I was essentially dead on the table, and they brought me back, and I was in a coma for a while. So I'm a pretty strong cookie. Like, they didn't even know if I was going to survive the night because I was so cold. They had to put, like, one blanket on a time to, like, raise my body temperature. And when you have a head injury, you are at a higher risk for seizures, sadly. I have a friend who went to the same brain injury rehab as me, who has petit mal seizures as well. But it is, I imagine, scary to see somebody go through that, like...
Especially when you care about the person immensely.
Yeah. But I'm definitely, like, a tough cookie. I've had, a seizure before, and I pull through like a trooper, Yeah. Once they get my blood sugar back to normal and they've given me medicine to stop the seizure, and, like, give me what I need, like, whether it's fluids or lowering the sugar or getting me sugar, I am A-okay, my family has seen this before, so they know I'm going to pull through. They know the hospital's going to take good care of me. They don't worry as much because they're like, we've seen it, we can handle it. They're going to take good care of her, like... and my mom works at the jail, so she's had some emergency training, so she handles everything like a trooper. Oh my goodness.
Yes,
she is a tough lady.
Very calm indeed.
And I think since I had my brain injury, she doesn't worry as much because that was like way worse than the seizure could ever be.
Right.
And I pulled through. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot to witness somebody you care about go through that. I've said that a few times already, though. I'm just glad she's alright, and she seems to be doing well today.
I usually tend to rest after a seizure. I nap, I watch TV, I get on my computer a bit. I don't really go for walks after a seizure because if I had, like, another one, I wouldn't want to have one in public. I'll walk if I've been seizure-free for a while, but if I've recently had a seizure, not for me. I'm not falling down in public. Let me tell you that. I am not having a seizure in McDonald's or, like, losing my dogs or, like, being at Family Dollar or something and whatnot. I tend to stick close to home after I've had one just to be safe.
Right.
Because I've always had a fear when I have a seizure, like I live alone, so, and I do have, like, DSP staff that help me with my autism and, like, helping me wash up because of my brain injury and things, but, like, for me, when they're not here, I'm here alone, and so I do not want to be out walking alone after a seizure. Because that, I would hate to have a seizure in a place where no one could find me. That is a fear of mine, is if I was walking and, had a seizure and no one I knew was there, no one knew what to do, that's why I think first aid and CPR training is very important. I got Red Cross first aid and CPR trained for both adults and infants. So yeah.
Well,
What about after they calmed you down? What happened from there?
I feel like anxiety-wise, I feel like I handled it reasonably well. I don't know how visible that was to other people, because they were trying to calm me down because I was rather amped from the whole thing.
Yeah. It's so interesting for me to hear somebody else's perspective, because I'm unaware what's happening when I'm in a seizure. I don't know how other people feel when I'm in a seizure. Like, to me, it's, I'm not feeling anything. I'm not, like, physically or mentally or emotionally. I'm not aware of what's going on around me. I'm not aware of what they're doing to help me. So it's interesting to see the other perspective. And I can piece together usually what happens from, like, the paramedics, the doctor, family members, and things. But other than that, I'm clueless. I wake up confused and scared in the ambulance. And and one of my first thoughts was like, where's my mother? My mother always, when I arrived at the hospital, she always follows down, and so I didn't see her when I got there, and I was like, where is she? What happened? Mm-hmm. That was running through my mind. Was he okay? Because that has to be scary to others. Anyone with empathy, I think, would know that. So I was wondering, how did he handle it? Was he good? Were my dogs okay? Because they hadn't even been put in their crate after the walk. They were still leashed.
Yes, your mom and I took care of the dogs.
Yeah, he told me the dogs wrapped the leash around the table and were jumping all over me.
That was kind of a headache to fix. The tied up part.
The thing is, when I have a seizure, they licked my You were saying they were jumping all over me, and
they started doing it around the time your mom got
here. And with dogs, usually they lick your face if they're trying to help you breathe. They're very, very smart.
Yes, they are.
I've actually seen other shows on TV where they have explained that their dog kept somebody alive because they were looking at their face, which kept them breathing.
Yes.
Which is, dogs are smart. They know. But yeah, they wanted to make sure I was alright. I'm mama to my dogs.
Yeah, of course. And it does scare me a bit that she lives alone currently. That's weighed on me a bit for this past day. I've been thinking about that a lot. There's just... It's a lot to go through. It's a fourth I'll certainly never forget. The 911 operator said I handled it pretty well. They were complimentary of how I handled it, because I was pretty nervous on the phone and stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I posted, some YouTube shorts that morning, some TikTok videos. I was feeling good that morning. I didn't expect to have a seizure that day.
Yeah.
So it was a lot.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
She pulled through, and I'm grateful for that.
I did good.
Very good.
Yeah, I had no clue the dogs were jumping all over me like that until you mentioned it.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't surprise me because I know, from other knowledge that dogs, if they don't think you're breathing well, will try to lick their owner's mouth to get them breathing.
They mostly stayed out of the way off to the side while I was on the phone. Once your mom arrived, they started trying to get all over you, basically.
Yeah.
So
they definitely, I think, wanted my mom to know.
Yeah.
Where I was and what was going on. My dogs are very smart. They
definitely are.
Yeah. Yeah. But I'm glad my dogs were okay. I'm glad Kyle was okay. I'm glad my mom was okay.
Yes.
So I'm extremely grateful to him. Like I said, he and my mom were my hero that day. It is a fourth I will not forget. Because I did not expect to end up in the hospital. I had the IV, I had to do the urine test, I had to do blood work. They were poking me, they took my blood. And I was there, it seemed for so long. I don't know how long I was there for, but I didn't get released until 10 at night.
It was across 10 a little bit.
Yeah.
She was there for roughly 3 to 4, maybe even 5 hours.
Yeah, so it was a long time that I was there, and I was rearing to go towards the end of it. I told my brother, I said, I want to go. And go get the nurses. Tell them I'm ready to go. Yep. Yeah. And so, if any of you have seen somebody have a seizure, or know somebody who has a seizure, I feel bad for y'all, genuinely. But this is just a perspective from somebody who has them, and somebody who, was in that emergency situation, and an update on our fourth. I hope, maybe this gave you some info on what to do if you see somebody seizing. Put them on their side, put a pillow under their head. Don't hold them down like this. Mm-hmm. That's not helping them. Put them to the side. Right. And whatnot. But hopefully it was helpful to some of you, perhaps. And hopefully, some of you, well, not hopefully. I hope none of you can relate to this, really, because I hope none of you had to experience what we did on the 4th. But yeah, that's an update on my 4th of July, and I will see you all tomorrow. I will still be making videos, don't worry.
You will.
Yeah, I'm not gonna stop. A seizure's not gonna stop me. I'm sorry. You're still gonna have to deal with this face and listen to this mouth.
Right.
You know, I mean, unless you want to like plug your ears up. I mean, I don't know, but I don't know why you'd be watching my video if you're plugging your ears up. To be honest, if you don't want to hear my voice. But yeah, you're stuck with me and maybe him for a while. he'll be in some videos. Just.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, thank you, Kyle, for telling me your perspective, and I appreciate that.
Anytime, my dear.
And I'll see you all tomorrow. Bye, everyone. Stay
Very well.
seizure free, and if you are seizure free, don't forget to like and comment on this video. I guess if you have seizures,
do the same thing, maybe.
Yeah,
I mean, why not?
do the same thing. Why not? Bye, everyone.